Sejam muito bem-vindos e muito obrigada pela vossa presença. De facto, só demonstra que nem a chuva, nem a tempestade nos demove desta causa que, de facto, nos toca tanto a todos. Em nome do Sr. Vereador Frederico Pinho de Almeida, que, aliás, está a caminho, por motivos precisamente profissionais, conjugados com as questões climatéricas, não conseguiu estar aqui a tempo da abertura, mas está a caminho. Eu queria saudar-vos a todos, dar as boas-vindas. Não posso deixar de congratular a Pró-Inclusão, na pessoa da Sra. Presidente da Direção, a professora Margarida Loureiro, e toda a sua equipa. Destaco também aqui, muito particularmente, pelos motivos que são óbvios, a inquietação do professor David Rodrigues, que sempre nos acalenta e motiva, mesmo nos momentos em que estamos com... olha, eu já estou sem voz, não é? Mas cá estou. E, de facto, dizer-vos que este é um tema sensível, é um tema duro, é um tema que quase que nos recruta ao nosso propósito quando escolhemos trabalhar na área da educação, mas que efetivamente nós, municípios, estamos sempre convosco, concordando, discordando com aquilo que é a nossa política educativa em matéria de inclusão e, portanto, só aqui partilhar que no cômputo geral, e aliás estávamos a falar disso na introdução, somos muito favoráveis à perspectiva da inclusão. Lamentamos muitas vezes não haver aqui o comprometimento dos diferentes setores, não é? E, portanto, a educação não pode tudo e, portanto, é muito bem-vindo todo o setor da saúde, é muito bem-vindo todo o setor da segurança social, são muito bem-vindos outros setores, porque, de facto, são aldeias que educam as crianças e, portanto, precisamos dessa aldeia, quando precisamente a nossa diversidade nos impela e nos obriga a atender a cada particularidade, a cada personalidade. Muito obrigada, professora Margarida Loureiro. Conte sempre connosco para estes ventiladores de outras realidades, de outros países, de outras políticas. Isto faz-nos bem e sabe-nos bem. Portanto, a todos que usufruam, que passem aqui uma excelente tarde e muito obrigada.
Boa tarde a todos. Sejam muito bem-vindos, bem-vindas. Queria começar por agradecer à Câmara Municipal de Cascais, na pessoa neste caso, o Sr. Vereador não conseguiu estar presente, mas temos aqui uma equipa extraordinária a representar a Câmara de Cascais, a equipa da Divisão de Apoio Pedagógico e Inovação Educativa, através da doutora Ana Gil, a Carla Cordeiro, a Susana Oliveira, que foram incansáveis no pronto apoio para a realização desta conferência. Agradeço também à Casa das Histórias pelo acolhimento que nos fez. E já agora, gostaria de aproveitar a oportunidade para vos dizer que a nova sede da Pró-Inclusão, que muitos de vós souberam durante tantos anos ser no Instituto Piaget em Almada, será instalada, vai passar a ser, num espaço do edifício Estação da Parede, que nos foi oferecido pela Câmara Municipal de Cascais. Portanto, por tudo isto e mais alguma coisa, estamos muito gratos à Câmara de Cascais. Para já, enquanto as obras de requalificação não terminarem, nós estamos temporariamente num gabinete que fica na Escola Secundária de São João de Estoril. Portanto, o que quer que necessitem, contactos por e-mail, por telefone ou presencialmente na escola. Thank you very much. Ainda não. Desculpem. Já estou aqui a saltar degraus. Bom, finalmente, last but not least, muito obrigada à professora Heidi Harju-Luukkainen for accepting our invitation e partilhar a experiência e a perspectiva nórdica sobre a inclusão. Muito obrigada também ao professor David Rodrigues por nos desafiar sempre e nos ajudar a criar mais esta oportunidade. Ora bem, a Casa das Histórias, onde nós nos encontramos neste momento, como sabem, é um tributo à obra de Paula Rego, que faleceu em 2022. E Paula Rego foi uma artista com uma visão e uma representação muito particular e satírica da realidade. Nas últimas décadas, aliás, esta pintora extraordinária abordou temas políticos, como, por exemplo, o abuso do poder, e temas sociais, como, por exemplo, o aborto, entre outros, do domínio feminino. Aliás, ela chegou a dizer numa entrevista ao Financial Times: tenta obter justiça para as mulheres, pelo menos nas imagens, e vingança também. Lutou, através da sua pintura, contra a misoginia do mundo das artes. Por outro lado, para acolher as suas obras aqui em Cascais, onde também viveu, escolheu o arquiteto Pedro Souto Moura, que, curiosamente, com este projeto, iniciou uma nova fase da sua obra, reinventando-se na visão que teve para este edifício, começando a redesenhar a forma de construir e criar arquitetura através da complexidade e dinamismo de formas. E porquê é que eu falo destas duas pessoas que aparentemente nada têm a ver com a educação? Quer um, quer outro, que procuraram, ou procura, porque Souto Moura ainda é vivo, através de diferentes formas de arte, por um lado, uma representação diversificada e inovadora da realidade, e por outro, que essa representação transmitisse, e transmita, uma mensagem de força e beleza sobre a vida e sobre os espaços. Também por estas razões, este foi o lugar escolhido para nos encontrarmos hoje. Porque, afinal, o que é educação, se não ajudar o outro a aprender, a olhar o mundo criticamente, a dar solidez à capacidade para reconhecer o que foi feito, ao conhecimento e à criatividade para construir, reinventar e inovar num processo contínuo de desenvolvimento pessoal e coletivo. Sabemos bem que a escola em Portugal atravessa uma encruzilhada da qual parece ser cada vez mais difícil conseguir sair. Os professores acham que não estão a ensinar ou que não os deixam ensinar. Os alunos acham que não estão a aprender. Os pais acham que a escola não lhes pertence. A esmagadora maioria dos agentes educativos deixou de acreditar num futuro viável para o sistema de ensino. E este é o estado de alma da escola pública em Portugal, quer queiramos, quer não. Parece bem triste, não é? Ainda assim, no meio desta encruzilhada, encontramos lugares, que é como quem diz, escolas, onde ao invés os alunos sentem e sabem que estão a aprender, os professores sentem e sabem que estão a ensinar, e os pais sentem e sabem o quão importantes são para e na escola. Seja como for, entre umas e outras, temos vindo a assistir a uma progressiva demissão silenciosa, como dizia um diretor de um agrupamento, e que ameaça a escola pública. E quando a escola pública é ameaçada, todos os que fazem parte desta comunidade estão em risco. Alunos, professores, técnicos, pais. E claro, quando falamos de risco, também sabemos que a vulnerabilidade de muitos dos alunos que frequentam a escola pública, esta escola que hoje está ameaçada, ou que sentimos que está ameaçada, é uma porta aberta para a desigualdade, para a discriminação, para a exclusão, enfim, para o sucesso. E agora que sacudi a tristeza, quero dizer-vos, acredito que todos os que estão aqui hoje, esperava que a tempestade deixasse que estivessem mais, se assumem ética e profissionalmente competentes e comprometidos com a melhoria da qualidade da escola e das respostas a mobilizar para que todos os alunos possam aprender junto dos seus pares. Também acredito que sabem exatamente o que deve ser feito para elevar a escola e a educação. Procuremos, pois, aqui, hoje, amanhã, na escola ou em qualquer outro lugar, encontrar formas individuais ou coletivas e de cooperação para que esse caminho se faça. Não deixemos que esta força e este compromisso que eu reconheço em cada um de vós se percam por entre as dificuldades que vamos encontrando. Por agora, vamos ouvir a professora Heidi falar-vos da experiência em matéria de inclusão, daquele que tem sido o sistema educativo, eu atrever-me a dizer, mais cobiçado do mundo. Estaremos sozinhos neste desafio que é o de ser professor e aluno na escola atual, uma escola com o maior índice de diversidade de que há memória? Estaremos sozinhos neste desafio de conseguir ensinar todos com todos? Não estamos. Para já, a Pró-Inclusão continuará convosco a fazer o caminho. Muito obrigada pela vossa presença. Once again, thank you very much, Professora Heidi. And welcome. Peço ao professor David que suba ao palco, a professora Heidi, por favor. O professor David é o fundador da Pró-Inclusão, diretor da revista Educação Inclusiva, conselheiro da Educação, com percurso de vida profissional e pessoal profundamente dedicado e comprometido com a causa da não exclusão e dos direitos humanos, quer a nível nacional, quer internacional. David, por favor, tenham a palavra. Muito obrigada.
Muito boa tarde. Eu sou aquela pessoa que vem intrometer-se entre o conferencista, portanto, espera-se que seja a pessoa que fala mais depressa e mais rápido. Queria dizer-vos que conheci a professora Heidi numa conferência no Conselho Nacional de Educação e, a partir daí, fell in love with her. E achei que era tão importante e tão interessante o que ela tinha para nos dizer, que quando soube que ela vinha a Portugal, rapidamente mobilizei, e a Pró-Inclusão mobilizou-se rapidamente para poder dar-nos este momento aqui. E, portanto, acho que é muito, muito interessante para nós, nesta perspectiva da educação comparada, não é? Nós falamos sempre de educação comparada. Não há ninguém que não vá a Badajoz e que não diga, em Badajoz eles têm. Só que as pessoas esquecem-se que em Badajoz também há outras coisas. Nós normalmente só olhamos na educação comparada para uma coisa. E eu penso que a professora Heidi nos vai apresentar aqui não uma coisa, mas um panorama sobre o que se passa nos países nórdicos, sabendo que todas as realidades são, porque são humanas, complexas, difíceis, contraditórias. Todas as realidades têm as suas pequenas voltas. A nossa Presidente não falou de uma coisa que ela devia ter falado, que é a nossa revista. A nossa revista. A revista Educação Inclusiva é a melhor revista que se edita em Portugal sobre educação inclusiva, digam o resto, apesar de ser a única. Portanto, é uma das grandes vantagens de ser sócio da Pró-Inclusão, é contribuir, receber e discutir a revista Educação Inclusiva. A professora Heidi acaba de ser convidada para publicar um artigo na revista, portanto faziam um favor de fazerem-se sócios, porque vai sair um artigo lá. Rapidamente, é difícil apresentar a professora Heidi com todo o currículo que ela nos mandou. Eu fiz um resumo para 3 páginas em letra grande, mas eu não vou dizer tudo, mas vou dizer talvez os aspectos mais importantes. A professora Heidi é professora na Universidade de Jyväskylä, uma das grandes universidades, talvez a melhor universidade finlandesa em termos de ciências da educação, de Jyväskylä. E, ao mesmo tempo, é também professora numa universidade na Noruega, na Universidade do Norte da Noruega. E para além disso, ela dirige programas de doutoramento na Noruega e também na Finlândia. Ela tem uma qualificação, é formada não só para a educação, mas para também o que nós chamaríamos de administração escolar, para management. É professora também de educação especial e é professora também de formação de professores, graus que ela obteve na Finlândia. Ela já trabalhou em 5 continentes, parece que foi todos, não é? Não sei se a Austrália ainda conta, mas trabalhou em 5 continentes e em 16 universidades. E passou a todas, penso que passou a todas, portanto teve aprovação em todas. E teve, entre as quais, a Universidade de Califórnia, em Los Angeles, a Universidade de Southern California, University of Gothenburg and University of Helsinki. Ela apresentou, obviamente, 40 projetos de investigação em vários países da Europa, no Médio Oriente, na Austrália e na América do Norte. E agora vem um dado que não é costume pôr nos currículos portugueses, mas é fundamental. A professora angariou, até agora, 10 milhões de euros em bolsas de investigação. Isto digo eu que não devo ter juntado nem 20 mil euros. 10 milhões de euros em bolsas de investigação. Eu podia ler muito mais coisas, mas dizer sobretudo que o trabalho da professora tem sido muito centrado na educação pré-escolar, na educação de professores, na formação de professores e também em programas de educação especial dentro da Universidade de Jyväskylä. E, para além disso, ela tem uma extensa publicação Aliás, irão ver num dos diapositivos, penso que no seguinte, vários livros, mas só para lhes dizer que ela tem cerca de 280 trabalhos académicos e 90 artigos publicados com revisão de pares. Para além disso, os livros internacionais e relatórios científicos. E, obviamente, corre o mundo como keynote speaker internacional. E na Finlândia trabalha também como investigadora principal da equipa PISA, do programa da OCDE, da PISA. Ela é responsável, é investigadora principal do governo finlandês para o PISA e também atuou como presidente, entre 2014 e 2016, da Associação de Pais da Finlândia. Associação de Pais da Finlândia. E já nem sei o que é que vou dizer mais dela, mas acho que fica aqui um bom fresco sobre esta professora, que é uma pessoa, como verão e como a conhecerem, uma pessoa extraordinariamente comprometida, não só com a sua carreira profissional, mas com os valores éticos que implica uma carreira profissional. E isso é qualquer coisa que nós nos apercebemos a partir do momento em que se põe açúcar no café, quando se toma um café com ela. Muito obrigado por ter vindo cá. A professora Heidi vai falar em inglês, mas ela tem uma surpresa para nós. Professora Heidi.
I can't put this one here. Muito obrigada pelo convite. É uma honra estar aqui. Obrigada, David Rodrigues, professor de Câmara de Cascais, por organizar este evento. Muito obrigada, professor David e professor João Marocco, pela ajuda com esta apresentação. Se esta apresentação não for boa, vocês sabem a quem culpar. Eu falo um pouco de português. Eu prometo responder em inglês. Vamos começar? Sim. And that's going to be all I'm going to be talking to you in Portuguese today. And I had it all written, but I had to blame David and João, for the presentation anyway. So that was the important part. Perfect. Lovely to have you all here. And sorry. Oh, yes, that was there. Lovely to have you all here. I can see a lot of you are afraid of us Finns because you're sitting so very far from over there. But I promise I won't bite. So if you like coming closer, that's also okay. If you want to sit there, that's fine as well. But I hope we can have a talk and discuss as well. Whenever you have some questions or something you wonder about, it's just to raise your hand and we can have those. We can stop every now and then. I can ask you if you have any questions. So as Professor David already talked to you, that I have been working as a professor in multiple countries, and I'm also a special education teacher to my background, and I've been doing a lot of research in special needs education as well. So, but before I'm going to go into the topic, here's a few pictures from my context. So when I arrived here, it's in my DNA, the bad weather, so it's my fault we have the weather here looking like it is, so I brought it to you. But anyways, here's a few pictures from my home country. And on the top right corner, there's my summer home. where we spend time with the family. And yes, I still do have a family, and I have 3 children and still a husband after my career in academia. Anyway, so here's a few pictures from Finland and how it looks like during the summer and during the winter. Right now it's -20 in Finland, and so this is just perfect for me. Finland is a country of more than 100,000 lakes, so there's a lot of swamp mark and mosquitoes. You're more than welcome to visit. And it's a very flat country as well, so when you stand up you can almost see from one end to the other, but not me. Anyways, let's go to today's topic. So, as David already told you, I have been publishing quite much international books, for instance, on special education and inclusion. And when I was thinking about today's presentation, I went through some of the topics, and so we came out just like a year ago, a book called Special Education in the Early Years, Perspectives on Policy and Practice in the Nordic Countries. And I've had a professorship in early childhood education as well, and that's very close to my heart, the area of research. Then we came as well out with a book was it this year or last year, on inclusion and special needs education for immigrant students in the Nordic country. And that's one area that has been very little researched about in general, because we're talking about the minority within a minority. I'm today going to be talking, you see there's the 2 kids holding the sort of the cups. I'm going to be talking to you as well a little bit of the developing language-aware pedagogy in early childhood education and care, and the tools we have developed. And it's going to be free for you to use if you like to, and adapt those to the Portuguese context if you like. And then, of course, parental engagement and the collaboration with the parents is something that is very, very close to my heart. You have a free access to this presentation. I hope the link still works. If it doesn't, we can circulate the link, so to say. You have this presentation as a PDF there, and also related research. If you want to use this presentation, it's fine by me, but remember to sort of bring it back to me, tell that, I copied this from Heidi, and it's okay. So, and there's some research that I think might be of interest, and as well the tool that I'm going to show you in English. So feel free to translate it into Portuguese as well. So I'm going to be talking to you today about the Nordic context. What is inclusion? How do I see it from my perspective? What is special needs education in the Nordic countries? Some key features of the Finnish education system, and different type of support that we give children. I'm going to also be talking about teacher education for inclusive education, and that is to give you an idea and understanding how in my context we educate our teachers into special education. And also at the end I'm going to tell you about the practices. Now I would like you in the first row to show me then that time out, Heidi, soon after 30 minutes. So David and the gang here in the front row, can you show me in 30 minutes that 30 minutes has gone? Would that be okay? Or then you can just show me, to shut up and, leave. So, the Nordic context. Finland together, well, you can find Portugal probably easy, and Finland is up north in the armpit of Russia. And but together with the Nordic countries, we score very high in different type of lifestyle measures and quality of life of children and adults. And all of these countries highlight policies that promote equity and independence as well. So these include family and different type of child-centered policies that promote social cohesion. And the thing is that when I was making this presentation, I know something about the Portuguese education system. I've been here a few times. And however, I find that on the surface, we have so much in common actually, and there's much of the policies are very similar. However, when you go under the surface and look at the practices, that's where you can find the biggest differences. You get my point? So a lot of the things that I'm saying to you will make complete sense in your own context as well. So what are these policies in the Nordic countries? We have different type of parental leaves, childcare services, financial support for families, work-life balance policies. We have the education for all policy, healthcare services, housing policies, gender equality measures, social integration policies, and elderly care. What the parental leave, for instance, means, I'm a mother of 3, and I have had the luxurious I have taken, part of the luxurious Finnish system, so to say, that has given me the opportunity to work as well. So in Finland, the municipality is in charge of organizing early childhood education. So if I as a mother want to go back to work, or a father, depending on who's at home, the municipality has to organize their child placement within 3 months. And then when it comes to parental leaves, we had a huge change in 2022 in the policy. So now the mother who is delivering the baby can have 200 days parental leave money, and that's around 75% of your salary for 200 days. And then the father can have 160 days. And if the mother wants, she can give 63 days to the father, or the father can give 63 days to the mother. So this is in a way something that the government is trying to push both parents to take the responsibility of the child upbringing as well. So if, for instance, the mother or the father don't use their own share of the days, it's gone. Okay, that's about it. So let's jump into the inclusion. What is inclusion? So we have policies that guide inclusion across the world that are the same for all. We have the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child from 1989. We have UNESCO's World Declaration on Education for All and the Salamanca Statement, all around 40 years old already. But there's actually one country that hasn't signed the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. I think 198 countries or something like that have signed the Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Do you know which UN country that is, that hasn't signed the Declaration for the Rights of the Child? Yes, correct. Yeah, or actually they have signed, but they have not ratified, because they want to keep their children in prison, I've heard. But anyways, it's actually a surprise. So what is inclusion? So inclusion is a concept that provides all students with community membership and greater opportunities for academic and social achievement by ensuring they have access to the same learning environments, curriculum, and resources as their peer, and are supported accordingly to their individual needs within the general education setting. So in the recent years, there has been a shift in the focus in the Nordic countries from children with special education needs towards a more broader perspective on children's rights and sort of children first type of thinking. And I'm going to come back to that one. But why is inclusion a very important topic across the Nordic region? And that is because inclusion is very much incorporated into our legal and policy framework. We have the inclusion idea aligns very well with our societal values, and the inclusion supports social cohesion, builds tolerance and respect, and prepares everyone for a diverse world. That's the idea with inclusion. So the Nordic education is not only about academic achievement, it has a more of a holistic perspective. All the way from early childhood education, we have a holistic perspective. And it's about social, emotional, and physical well-being and development. And that's why we also highlight very much subjects like arts, crafts, music, home economics, taking care of your own economics, so on. Preparing children for a life later on, not only for the academic. Nordic countries support human rights principles, like many other countries, and we see that inclusion protects the rights for education for every child. We have an emphasis in all of the Nordic countries, especially in Finland, on early intervention. And this means that the child needs to get support before diagnosis. You see, so you don't need to have any diagnosis in order to get support. So whenever there arises a need for support, or you see as an early childhood education worker, you see, that there is a need for support, then you need to put it into place. Inclusion promotes also economic sustainability and reduces social exclusion. And these are all important values for us. So, what is inclusive education? In order for inclusive education to work, we need a commitment from the entire society. Inclusion or inclusivity can be seen from multiple different perspectives. This is a problem, but it's also a positive thing. So, inclusive education is a mindset. It is our value base, how we look at the children's rights. It's also, so on one hand it's our mindset. How do I think as an educator? On the other side, it's a part of the operation, how I operate every single day for inclusion of the children. But at the same time, it's also the child's perspective. And this one we very often forget, that is this the best for the child, for instance, to include children into a regular classroom? Is this for the best, for the benefit of the child? What is the child's perspective? So inclusion is a very broad, and depending on if you're in administration, if you're working with the children or so, you're looking at it from a different perspective. Another thing that makes inclusion a very difficult term is that it's never done. So in a very narrow perspective of inclusion, you can sort of tick a box and say that inclusion is done when I do this. But in a broader perspective, when we're looking at inclusion, it's never done, it's never ready, because the children develop, and we need, as educators, to develop our, how we work with the children accordingly. You get my point? So it's a process. To make it look a little bit more easier, I'm going to present to you the ecosystem model of inclusive education by European Agency for Special Needs and Inclusive Education. So here in the middle, we have the child, child's belongingness, engagement, and learning. And around the child, we have the different areas of positive and social interaction, involvement and daily activities, child-centered approaches, personalized assessment for learning, accommodation, adaptation, and support. And this is the area where we would find the special education happening, so to say. Then we have, on the next level, we have the family involvement, holistic curriculum, environment for all children, appropriate staff qualification, cultural responsiveness, collaboration. Then again, we go a little bit further from the child. We have the interagency cooperation, smooth transitions, community commitment to the inclusion, and so on. And then when we go even further, we find the teacher education, national curriculums, and laws, and those type of things. So this picture makes, at least for me, a little bit easier to understand how broad the concept of inclusion is, and that it is really a process, not something that we can tick the box that now we are ready with the inclusion, let's move on. So I wanted to share with you a few ideas what is discussed around inclusion globally. And the challenge today with inclusion is that it lacks a clear, focused definition. And when something doesn't have a clear definition, it's leading to unclear and inconsistent practices. And that's actually something you can as well relate to very much. At least in Finland, the educators are talking much about, inclusion doesn't work, and we have inconsistent practices within the field of education, and so on. The inclusion movement often also presents solutions that are final, tick-the-box answers, which might limit the change and the improvement in the systems. So it should be an ongoing process, and this is a broad perspective of the inclusion. So narrow view is that schools provide the minimum support required by the law and not fully embracing inclusion benefits. And the broader perspective is crucial if we want to achieve social equity in our societies. What is also discussed is that inclusion is not special education, as we saw in the big picture. They are not, inclusion doesn't equal with special education. Special education is a tool for inclusion. So, but the narrow view of inclusion focuses or influences special education, policies, theoretical and practical level. Do you see my point? And we have a lot of discussions that people have different type of views on inclusion. Do you have a broader or a more narrow perspective? And this is something that you need to as well discuss within your teams, because there will be very different type of understanding of what inclusion is. So there is also criticism that special education, as it is today in many countries, might reinforce societal control and segregation, actually, rather than aid inclusion. And many think that the focus should shift from whether special education is necessary for inclusion to how special education can be inclusively practiced within the context. And now I'm coming to the sentence that David loved. And I think a few of my other colleagues, I like it too, because it tells a lot about how we look at the inclusion. Dyson and Farrell said that the concept of inclusion generates more heat between us people than light. Let's jump to the special needs education. Now we have some sort of a broad picture of what is discussed in inclusion. So special education is defined as customized instructional services designed to meet the unique needs of students with disabilities so that the children can achieve their full potential and take part in the society. I think we can all agree on that one. What is good is that a lot of the countries are starting to realize that high-level special education support system helps the academic development, on personal development, preparation for life and lifelong learning, and this has positive effect on the educational outcome, and also we will get more or stronger members of the society and an economic potential for the future. So I'm gonna actually challenge you now. I can see a few of you are sitting a little bit further away from others, but you can move your Portuguese, you know how to communicate. In Finland, Finnish people are actually very quiet and very withdrawn, so this would be a challenge in Finland. I don't think this will going to be a challenge here in Portugal. Anyway, what type of challenges do you see with special needs education and inclusion in the Portuguese context? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to discuss, and then I'm going to reveal something for you. So please, go ahead. Do what you do best. Thank you so much. Fantastic. It's actually lovely to see. I don't understand necessarily, but I see your expressions and how much emotions there is involved in what you say. And the global challenges within special needs education and inclusion are following. And I think you can find that the things you said fit into these frames. So the problems are very often resource allocations. We have how many said resource allocations? Yes. Teacher training and support. Yes. Identification and assessment. Yes. Cultural attitudes. Oh, that's good. Inclusion implementation, so people's understanding of inclusion. Good. Diverse need, that children have so extremely diverse needs today. Yes. The parental and community involvement, the collaboration with the parents and the rest of the community. And then we have the infrastructure, so that you have both hands. So that the infrastructure doesn't support the children. Very often, when I find challenges, I have been working on this field for 26 years now. I'm an old lady already. So we need to focus on things we can change and not on things that we cannot change. And I have put here on the green, with the green, those ones that are closest to the children. We can affect, if we're working with the children, parental and community involvement, identification and assessment, the inclusion implementation, and the diverse need and individualization. That's our core. The cultural attitudes can everybody change. But what cannot be changed within when you're working with early childhood education, basic education, is the resource allocation, infrastructure, teacher training support. Just to give you an idea of how I very often target different type of challenges, to really think about what can I do to make a change, or what can I do to make a difference. Let's go to my context for a while, Finnish education context. And it was actually funny, Professor João Marocco, came to Norway and to Bodø, which is on the Arctic, above the Arctic Circle. And he wanted so much to see the Northern Lights. And I still can remember when I told him that, no, they're so rare, you're never going to see them anyway, so don't have any expectations or anything. And then in the evening time, when we stepped out of the university building, we had the most beautiful and strong aurora borealis in front of us. And I told him, this is the way we greet here in Nordic countries. But what a coincidence to see that one. So it's not that there. So what is Finland as a country known for? I'm going to read these very quickly to you. Finland is the most stable country in the world, safest country in the world, freest country in the world, second most gender equal country in the world, most human capital in the world, best primary education in the world, happiest people, most literature country in the world, third in world innovation comparison, second best country to be a girl in the world, among 5 best countries in reading, science, and financial literacy in PISA 2019. Let's not talk about after that. And I have many times been wondering, because Finland, this is only just a scratch on the surface, and I've been multiple times wondering, why is Finland on the top? Why can we find Finland in almost all of the rankings, world rankings, you can find Finland on the top? And do you know what I have been figuring out here? What the reason is? Yeah, and I drink tea. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. So the education policy, it's important to understand that one. So the main objective is to offer all citizens equal opportunities to receive education. It's in our constitution. So it's not about how much money you have, and it's not about, what is your religion or so on. Everybody needs to have the equal opportunities. So we have almost free early childhood education, free compulsory education, and almost free universities. And this means also, because it's in our constitution, we do not have in the same way private education providers as you can find in most of the countries, because you cannot make money with education, because education has to be for free. So the focus on education is on learning, not on testing. So it's always in the classroom, for instance, if the children don't learn, it's never the child's fault. I am the teacher in the classroom. I have the highest degree in education. I have to figure out how to make the child learn. And it's a responsibility that teachers take very seriously. The educational autonomy is very high. It's been decentralized since 1919. We have no school inspections. There's no school inspections whatsoever. And teachers are completely free to choose whatever material they want, what books they want to use, however they want. If the sun is shining, rarely in Finland, except in the summertime when the sun never goes down. So in the summertime, if the sun is up, and I think as a teacher that it would be a good idea now to have something that isn't in the plan, I'm going to take the kids outside and do it, because it's my responsibility to make sure that they learn, so I can adapt accordingly or however I want. So the educational autonomy on teachers is very, very high. So you are responsible to the society, to the parents, that the children will be educated on a high level, but at the same time, you have total autonomy to do it the way you want to do it. And in Finland in general, we see education as a key to competitiveness and well-being of the society. In the education system, there is no dead ends. I'm going to do like this, David. Meaning that you can go from basic education up to the universities without any dead ends. You see my point? That you can go crisscross, and this makes also lifelong learning possible for everybody. What's different, this is from Pasi Sahlberg's paper. He calls global educational reform movement as something that is where we highlight competition between the individuals, standardization, test-based accountability, choice, human capital, and in the Finnish way, TFY, can make it into something else as well. Anyways, collaboration, personalization, trust-based responsibility, equity, and professional capital. And I think one of the most important things that many people that come to Finland to visit can see that the trust-based responsibility, it's something that penetrates the entire society. It goes, everybody has the responsibility of our society and the welfare of everybody. This is going to be probably a surprise for you. This is the total expenditure on education. We have the Portugal, you use around, this is all upper secondary education, and this is from OECD. And there is around 11,000 US dollars that are used per child in upper secondary in Portugal, and in Finland we use 10,000. If we look at the total expenditure on education as a percentage of GDP, we can see that Portugal and Finland are putting equally much money into education percentage-wise, and OECD average is on around 3.6%. So the key features of special education in Finland is inclusivity as a core principle, as I told you already, the early intervention and support. Right away when you see it, you have to make that happen. We have the supportive legislation and policy, and we have the teacher preparation. I'm going to show you that one. The teacher's role, I already told you about, huge autonomy. And the collaborative approach that we have to work together with specials, parental involvement, and allocation of resources, individualized education plans, and national guidelines. And if I would be here today talking about Portuguese education system, I think I could have the same boxes up there. Is it correct? I don't know, probably the role of the teachers would be a little bit different. Surprise, surprise. Type of support in Finland looks like this. It's a 3-tier model. And did I understand that you have the same type of 3-tier model? So we have the general support, learning plans, intensified support, and special support. And on the going from it's a universal access, the first layer, with preventive measures. And as soon as we find out that child needs support, we give it. And then the next one is the intensified support tier, where we have the targeted interventions and individualized plans. And then on the third tier, we have highly customized education, multidisciplinary collaboration, and legally binding educational plans. However, this structure has been very difficult in Finland. And it is not that easy as a teacher, for instance, to know, on what level the support should be given. I don't know, do you have the same challenges that it's difficult to sort of put it into practice? Yeah. So because the support methods and tools that we use with the children are almost the same at every tier level, but the intensity of the provided support increases from one level to another when we go further. So we do a basic pedagogic assessment you see pedagogical assessment with the blue over there on the first level. And I wanted to show you an example how it's done in Finland, and you can see if it's different or the same as you do. So first, in the pedagogical assessment, you would have the basic information, collaboration and responsibilities. You would have the the collaboration responsibilities is, who is involved in making this plan, so to say, who has what responsibilities. Then when we jump to the next thing, it's assessment of the students' learning and school attendance is the main topic. And there, the collaboration persons answer following questions. The students' overall situation regarding learning and school attendance from the perspective of school, student, and the parents. And then the next level is the general support received by the student and an assessment of the impact of various forms of support. The student's strengths and interests, learning difficulties and special needs related to learning and school attendance, and an assessment of what kind of pedagogical guidance related student welfare or other support arrangements can support the student. And then we have an assessment of the need for intensified support, documents that you have different type of documents that you use in preparation for this one, and the date, of course, when it's done, and also the decision if the student will be put up on the tier 2 or not. Do you have the same here? Approximately. I can give you the entire form if you would like to have that one for your information. So how many children in Finland do then get the support or special support in basic education? These are from 2022. Why we started having this 3-tier model is because our schools with special needs students were filled. I mean, the classes, it was very, how would I say, I've heard, it was easy to sort of put the child into a special class, into a separate class. And there were a lot of kids, so there needed to be some changes. But anyways, now when we look, so intensified support was provided to 13.9% of the children in basic education and 9.7% of the basic education students. And as you can see, we have a quite nice curve going upwards when it comes to children with special needs. Around 60-70% of the children who receive special needs education on some tier is boys, rest is girls. Something that is different is that in basic education, around 1/3 of the children that are receiving special support on the highest tier end, 1/3 is taught entirely in special groups and special classes. So we still do have special groups and special classes for those children that need the most support. Something that has been discussed in Finland, if we have a problem at our hands at the moment, is that this is, sorry about the Finnish language here. ADHD has suddenly become extremely popular. You have the same here? Yes. So around 5% of children around the globe are experiencing traits of ADHD. Sort of like, yeah. However, nowadays we have 8.3% of the boys have been diagnosed with ADHD and 3.3% of girls. And if we look at the map here, maybe I can, no, is it this one? No, maybe this one? Yes, here. This is the map of Finland. As we can see here, for instance, here is pojat, boys, tytöt, girls. So here, in this area, 20.3% of the boys are diagnosed with ADHD of the entire area there. And then here, of the girls, 7.7%. Impossible to have that many children with ADHD. So what we're talking about is qualification. How well are we able to recognize when it comes to doctors, psychologists who do the final decisions on children's ADHD. And this has been a challenge in Finland, that we over-diagnose. And this has been, how would I say, it's impossible to have 1/5 of the boys having ADHD in one area. So the discussion has been, do we have a problem? Yes, we do have a problem regarding competencies. Now let's jump to the special teacher education in Finland. We have basically two different types of special teachers. We have teachers like me, when I did my studies, that can provide part-time special needs education. You go into the classroom, work with the teachers, or take children separately to some subject support, or teach simultaneously with the teacher. Another is a special needs class teacher, where you have a class teacher qualification and then above that a special teacher qualification. And you usually have children that are in the same smaller class spaces, and then they go in and out depending on the subjects that they have. So usually it's possible to become a special education teacher in Finland if you have some sort of subject or teacher qualification, you have basic understanding or let's say 25 credits in special education, 35, plus you do one larger module of 60 credits, and I'm going to show you this one. So this is an example of studies that we provide for our teachers that want to be special education teachers. So you can have the entire education in special education or then do these modules, and this is the module. So you have their accessible learning and interaction environment, assessment and support in reading, writing skills, mathematics, behavior problems, professional expertise, how to develop that, and also internship in special education. You go on the field and learn from others. And then you can specialize in autism, different type of severe disabilities, collaboration with the families. We actually have in our curriculum in Finland 2.5 pages of parental collaboration in the entire curriculum, defined whose responsibility is what. We have the motivation as support for learning, well-being at work, and so on. And of course, we need the administrational understanding, meaning law understanding. Now let's jump towards the practice and towards the research that we have been doing. Dr. Erja Sandberg graduated a few years ago, and she did the biggest ADHD-related research in the country. And we analyzed together her data, and she asked around 200 parents, and 100 were included into this study from parents. Do your child get the support they need? Do you feel that your child gets the support, special needs support that they, need to strive in school? And we went through those both interviews and as well questionnaires that parents answered, and we came up with few challenges. So all of these needs to be in place so that parents feel that their child receives adequate support for its ADHD. And I can say honestly that it can be ADHD or autism or whatever. So the first thing is the teacher's up-to-date knowledge. It's impossible to support child with ADHD if you don't understand what ADHD is and how the children are when they have ADHD. The strength-based thinking was another thing that the parents brought up, that not only think about the negative things, because the children will hear so much negativity in their life, so that they felt that the positive strength-based thinking was something that supported the children best. The multi-professional collaboration, parents that felt that they had the psychologists, the doctors, the nurses, and everybody around the child working together in collaboration was one of the main things as well. And of course, the collaboration between the school and the home. And it sometimes can be very tricky because we're talking about, for instance, children that are misbehaving and those type of things. It's not easy to bring it out and to discuss them. And then the teachers' preconceptions. And now we're talking about the inclusion as well. What did the teachers think? What type of preconceptions did they have about ADHD? The last thing that I'm going to show you is the language-aware pedagogy in Finland. And Finland, just like Portugal, is a multilingual country, and we have had a lot of immigration into Finland during the last years. And our early childhood education teachers have struggled in how to support these children that have another language as their mother tongue than the Finnish or Swedish. Finland has actually two national languages, Finnish and Swedish. But anyways, they struggle with the children and understanding. So the language-aware pedagogy is something that is introduced in our curriculum and in both basic education and early childhood education. And it's a tool for learning. It's an idea of valuing linguistic diversity and identifying and addressing language-related barriers in your workplace. So together with 27 municipalities and 240 around personnel have been involved in developing this tool. And I was honored to lead the group. And this tool is it has 3 parts. The first part is to assess and develop early childhood education learning environment in relation to language awareness. The second is to examine the linguistic environment of a multilingual child in cooperation with the guardians. And the third part is to monitor the development of Finnish language proficiency of a multilingual child. I have done a lot of different type of tools for both Finland and for other contexts as well. Never during my career have I seen that a tool would have been this broadly used. So now it's used as well in other countries, which I'm very proud of because it's important that we also include children with different languages in their background. Anyways, the language-aware learning is based on an operational culture that supports the child's development and learning in different type of ways. And this tool, when we started preparing this 3-part tool for early childhood education, the first versions of the tools were like 15 pages of questions or, huge thing. And I wanted to have a tool that would be usable, no more fill-in forms that wouldn't take, our thinking further. So that's why we did this. So form 1 page. The idea is that you sit with your colleagues and you discuss. We have here areas: personnel activities, learning environment, and child's inclusion. Because the children's learning, when we're talking about children that speak other languages than Portuguese, for instance, where do they learn the language? They learn it in early childhood education, basic education, and so on. And if we are not language aware as pedagogues, the children will not learn the language as effectively, meaning that they might end up having challenges, language-related challenges and learning-related challenges in the future. So, for instance, you sit down with your colleagues and you discuss these questions. The personnel acts as a linguistic model, helps the child to expand their vocabulary and adapt their speech to the child's level of proficiency. The personnel creates a permissive and interactive atmosphere where the child is heard and accepted and blah, blah, blah. Then we have the learning environment question and the child's inclusion questions. And you answer these, and then you come back in a year or so. Have we developed? All of these questions are those that they sort of guide you in your work further. When we are examining the language in child's environment with the parents, why are we, well, we wanted to make a very simple form where we can get information from the parents, what type of languages and how much languages do the children speak in their everyday life. So, for instance, what languages do children speak with the guardians, with the siblings, with the grandparents, with the friends, adults? What about the hobbies, different type of learning environments and so? Why do we want to know how much children speak other languages at home, for instance? It's because languages are connected with one another. So the better the child speaks its first language, whatever that is, or first languages, the better the child will also learn the Portuguese language. And it's very important for pedagogues to understand, or teachers to understand, the linguistic environment of the child in order to be able to support the child in a best possible way. I'm going to stop here today. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to have a discussion with you. Thank you. This one works. Yes, David.
First of all, thank you so much for your presentation. It was, in a way, it's like to see ourselves in a mirror, in a different mirror. And so it's, thank you very much. I would like to ask you about your expectations about teacher education. Because sometimes I feel, myself, I think, we put a lot of expectations in teacher education, and we think that that will change, that will be the key, that will be the level that will change everything. And sometimes, a lot of times, I don't believe that. I think probably the environment of school, the values, the ethos of the school could be much more interesting, could change more the teacher than teacher education. Would you like to comment?
Yes, definitely. I think it's precisely as you said, David. In Finland, we have areas, you saw the country, so to say. So we have areas where children, for instance, don't value the education the same way as in other parts of the country. And then we can find that the educational outcome is also lower in those areas. So it's much about how the society as well looks at the education, looks at the teaching profession. So we're all connected to one another, definitely. So the teacher education cannot solve all of the problems, but we can educate teachers that will renew the society in a long run. So yeah, so I see that teachers have a power of making a lot of changes into children's lives and into the society as well, on multiple levels, values, for instance, or tolerance and those type of things. But it can't solve the economical problems of the society, for instance.
we were talking about our concern with getting the support from the parents, because sometimes we can identify the children and we can feel and see, because we have a lot of experience, that they have special needs and they need a special care. But sometimes it's not easy in Portugal to talk with the parents and make them understand that having special needs, it's not having a disease or something bad. Yeah. But I think in our schools, I'm talking about my school, we have some problems how to get to the parents and explain them that their child has special needs, and that's not wrong or a problem. But sometimes it's not easy to do that approach. And I would like to know, how do you do in your country? Because for us, it's a problem. It's a limitation. Yeah. Because in the first, they always think that we are putting a disease on the child, or she's out of the system, and there's nothing to do with that. But I think in Portugal, it's a huge problem, because we talk about special needs, but for the social environment, it's not easy to accept that children have special needs. So it's a difficult word to use in our schools, and there's always a big concern to how are we going to talk this with the parents.
Yeah, this is actually, of course, we can find the same challenges as well. However, we're talking about sort of the stigma and the societal, how people see disabilities and children's needs, for instance. And I don't have a cure for that one, definitely not, to say, go and say to the parents that, what are children's, this is, children have needs and different type of needs. No, nothing like that. But we're talking about the society, that the society needs to change how it looks at disabilities and children's needs, and that it's the right of the child. But at the same time, how would I say, in Finland, most of the children do get some sort of special support. My children have received, and it's not a big of a deal anymore, because most of the children do at some point struggle or find So I think within time, when the special education is not stigmatizing anymore, then it will become easier. Yeah, and I'm so sorry I don't have the key or the answer. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be easier if we, the teachers from the regular, would, I don't know.
You can say in Portuguese.
Okay. If we could take to ourselves and in our practice the spirit of the early intervention, because we don't do that and we are always waiting for a diagnosis. Yes. So that puts the formal problem, puts the problem in a formal way, and many times it isn't. Yeah. It's simple, but we complicate it most of the time. Yeah. And we don't, you talked about the teacher's role, and we don't value ourselves, and we don't do early intervention. And I think we all should do early intervention and put ourselves all some value.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And if I understood you correctly, what you're trying to say as well is that inclusion is a mindset. And not everybody in the society shares the same type of a mindset when it comes to inclusion. And it's very important that we work with our working communities, with the parents, with everybody to understand what is inclusion really. And we are working with that one in Finland as well, like in all of the Nordic countries. I think in every single country we're working on the concept of inclusion and understanding what it means in practice. Perfect. Oh, there was still one. Yes.
Okay. So, I'm asking what kind of policy you promote to create awareness in the community about that kind of issue. So if you promote the parents getting to the school, because I think the main issue is that the biggest walls is not the one that are in the schools, are in the minds.
Yes.
And we need some parents. Sometimes parents that have this kind of children knows many things, and we feel that that kind of knowledge can be shared with the community schools, even with the the children, the student. So in Finland, do you promote the parents and that kind of awareness?
Definitely. And it is in the, as I told you, that we have in the curriculum, we have two, and let's say the early childhood, there's a lot of early childhood education people here. So in the early childhood education curriculum in Finland is 64 pages, and 2.5 pages is about the collaboration with the parents, how it should be done, and who is responsible of doing things and so on. When it comes to curriculums, when they are done, they are also open for parents and for the entire society to comment and develop further. So how would I say, in Finland education, I would say is valued very much, and also the parents are quite aware of the education curriculums and those type of questions. However, the teachers have a huge responsibility in, for instance, parental evenings, or talking with the parents to promote and to sort of give out the information of the tolerance and the diversity of people and so on. But it comes very much to the society, as you said. I don't know what would be the correct key to making everybody tolerant against one another. So yeah, a very difficult question. I didn't actually answer it very well, but I'll leave it to here. Thank you so much.
I would like again to thank Professor for the conference. Sometimes we say that we have to turn the world to find ourselves. And it's so useful that we can be in touch with how other people think, how they act, to understand better what we are, what we feel, and what we must do. And that is useful for Portuguese and for Finnish people.
Definitely, it goes both ways. Absolutely.
Both ways. Yeah. And I think this conference was really a lesson for us when we see how the Finnish system organizes inclusion, the difficulties they have too, and the money they spend, that is not so different from the money we spend, but the use of the money they give. So again, thank you so much for your conference here. It was really valuable. We have a recording of your conference. We have your slides, and so you have your documentation. And so I'm sure you'll be a very fruitful reference for all of us. So please, another clap your hands to our professor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to be back here as well in Portugal at some point, and I would be very glad to visit your units and to see the work that you do. So that's always an honor. So please keep in contact.
Next conference will be in Portuguese, okay?
That's a huge curveball, but we're going to see.